podcast is none other than sixth generation farmer Paige Turek Dvorak. Paige, it's so good to have you here. Our lives have gone full circle. Thank you for taking the time to sit with us as a career woman now. You and I have had a lot of history. We got to know each other through college and more specifically our sorority. I was fortunate enough to be your big, you were fortunate enough to be my little, whatever we want to call it. It was so fun. And we'll never take those days for granted. So thank you for taking time out of your busy day and farm life to be here with us.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad that you asked me to be on. It's good to have connections in the right places. So I'm just excited to share my story.
And speaking of your story, let's get right into it. Talk to us a little bit about yourself, your background, how you got started in ag, and basically it's all you know. So tell us about it.
Yeah, it absolutely is all I know. I was born and raised on a farm here in South Central Kansas. Went to a really small school. There's like 300 people in my hometown. And I went off to college. I always had an interest in ag. Growing up, I always worked on the farm. So when I went to Oklahoma State University, I studied agribusiness and kind of stayed within the industry. Didn't know what I wanted to do yet, so I kind of kept it broad with that agribusiness degree. I graduated, worked at a desk job for a little over a year, and then decided I'd go back to the farm. And I've been at the farm for a little over a year now, and this has been my first time working on the farm full time. So that's a little bit about me.
I'm so glad you threw that in there that you graduated from college. You got that degree, that piece of paper. You became a career woman for a year and then decided you wanted to come back to the farm. Talk to us about that a little bit because a lot of people would have thought, I want to seek the freedom and go to a big city and learn what big city life is. But you did. And then you decided, no, thank you.
Yeah, it's something my parents were always really big about. They never wanted us being me and my sisters, never wanted us to feel like we had to farm. They wanted us to do our own thing, choose our own career path. But I was always interested in the ag side. But when I graduated college, my parents were like, no, you need to try something new, try something in town. And if you don't like it, the farm will always be here. So I told myself I'll give it a year. And if I still, I'm not happy after a year at my desk job, and ultimately farming is still what I want to do, I'm going to find a way to make that happen. And so I did.
And I'm so proud of you for that. And I noticed you talked about your family, your parents more specifically a lot. Let's talk a little bit more about them because even when we were in college, you overcame a challenge with your mother. Talk to us about that and how it was so hard being away from the farm, going through such a strong and hard challenge, and how you guys overcame it together as a family.
Yeah, I think it was the end of my freshman year in college, and my mom was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. Um, get a little choked up about it, but some of you may know, farming is like a really big family operation, and my mom plays a huge role. My mom grew up in the city in Wichita, Kansas, and knew nothing about farm life. But she, brings meals to the field. She Ubers us around. She's a rural Uber, is what we call her. Um, and so whenever she was diagnosed with breast cancer, that was hard on us because, my dad's trying to run this farm that is a full-time, more than full-time business, while also trying to be at home with my mom. And I was in college trying to, I wanted to be with my mom, but I also wanted to help my dad. And so it's just a lot of busy stuff while trying to balance family and everything in between. But I'm very thankful that we live in a small rural community, because these people, they poured into us, brought us meals, helped us with anything that we needed. So it was awesome. We made it through, but definitely challenging.
Yeah, you really did. And it was really inspiring for me just looking as an outsider too, because shout out to Mom Jill. She's a fashionista, very positive. She always kept you positive. She kept all of her daughters positive while dealing with one of the hardest things probably in her life, but then also being that backbone for you guys, being the rural Uber, being the one that brought the food. So that's so inspiring. And kind of speaking more to that, I loved how you said everyone has a role and she has a very important one too. A lot of people don't realize that when it's harvest season or calving season, or no matter what the season is, it's busy, it's time consuming, and it takes all hands on deck. Talk to us about the importance of having everyone involved in it.
Whenever it comes to busy season on the farm, it's madness. I'm talking, I'm working 16-hour days, and so are our hired hands and our family members. And everyone truly plays a huge role in that. And my dad, especially, because obviously he makes all of the decisions at the end of the day. He carries the burden financially and all of that, but also our hired hands. I don't think that hired hands get enough credit. because they are spending time here on the farm. Their families are at home, their wives are at home. And a lot of times I feel for them because, it's hard if you're not raised in agriculture, and you're not on the farm and you have to say goodbye to your husband. And, it's harvest can be a month-long process for us. So the hired hands in the family don't get enough credit. And also my mom being the farm wife, like I said, Ubering us around, spending tons of money on groceries to feed a whole harvest crew, and everything in between. So it definitely takes every single person. And if we see an extra person that thinks they want to help out, we'll pull them in and get them running a combine or helping us move equipment or whatever it may be. So
That's so inspiring too. And since you've mentioned Turk Farms a little bit, let's kind of go into that and talk about the scope of your farm, what all you guys do. I mean, you do it all. So tell us about all of it.
yeah, so I'm actually a sixth generation farmer. My dad is fifth generation. He can tell you a little bit more about the history, the land rush and how our family got here and the trading, the quarters, and all of that to finally end up where we are. I need to learn a little bit more about the history.
You've
But
got time.
essentially, my dad started Turek Farms, his side of Turek Farms, I guess I should say, when he was in college. He helped his grandpa farm, he rented equipment, really kind of started from scratch, essentially. I mean, they had some, but he definitely put in the work. Spent when I was little, I remember my dad coming home the next morning, he would spend the night in the tractor. He'd probably take a 2-hour nap in the tractor and then come home and do it again the next day. So a little bit about Turek Farms. We have a Turek seed wheat business. We sell certified seed wheat, which takes up a lot of time. So we grow wheat, primarily corn, soybeans, milo, and a little bit of canola. And then we also have a cow-calf operation that keeps us real busy in the winter. And so we also, have a hay season. We hay alfalfa and prairie hay as well, some crabgrass too. And so, yeah, that's we have a lot of irons in the fire. But like I said, we have a full team that makes it happen every year. So we keep on rolling.
So you talking about all the different things that you do, it was really fun for me spending the college years with you, learning about everything that was going on at home for you because you always kept in touch with the family, you always knew what was going on. And for me, I learned a lot from you. And similarly, but yet so different from you guys, our small cattle operation, we just grew enough hay and wheat hay, prairie hay to feed our own cattle operation. Whereas you guys in Kansas have taken it big scale. You now are producers and you help provide for all of the farmers and ranchers around you. How does that make you feel knowing that you're able to be a part of something way bigger than yourself and a big picture?
It's a great feeling. The past couple of years, we don't really sell our hay, so to say, but the seed wheat business we do. Well, within the past few years, we've had drought, so that kind of cut into the hay a little bit.
Man.
But I think that's one of my favorite parts about working in this industry is because it truly is something bigger than ourselves, and we are able to help people. I mean, we literally, it sounds cheesy, but we are feeding the world. Every tiny little seed that we plant grows into an awesome crop, hopefully. In the cattle business, it's awesome to see everything that you put in here on the farm is exactly what you're going to get out. Obviously, Mother Nature plays her large role in that as well, but it's unreal. I can't even put into words how awesome it is to work in an industry that is just so life-changing and so important for the world. I know it sounds really cheesy, but honestly, that's how it is. So
Hey, we're here for it. We love the cheese around here. And one thing you mentioned was the drought, and we'll get to that in a second. But I remember you saying you and your sisters. You referenced them earlier in the beginning part of this podcast. It's so interesting to me that your dad is a fifth generation farmer. He had 3 girls, was probably wanting a boy. I know we always joke that you and I were raised as the boys in our family, but it's so nice and inspiring for me to see that you're going on to continue the name and the brand. What's it like for you being a woman in the industry that's soon going to be taking over that role of running the farm on down the line one day?
lots of things with that question. I saw a question and it said, how did you grow up? And the first thing that came to mind is like I grew up like a boy, like a man.
That's so
My dad,
relatable.
yeah, it is. Um, my dad saw no difference between girls and boys. You know, you were going to do the work. He didn't care, you know, who you were. He actually did mention, someone asked him one day if he wishes he had a boy. And he said, I'd hire a woman or a girl to be on this farm over a boy any day because we don't tear as much stuff up. So we
Oh.
pay attention to the details a little, maybe a little bit too much. Sometimes my nerves get the best of me.
Speaking on that a little bit more, you being such a strong role in the family, tell us a little bit about what you see the future of Turk Farms doing. I know you guys probably have huge plans in the future.
Yeah, the future of Turek Farms, whenever someone asks me, it's a little bit scary because I want my dad to be around forever, even though I know that's not possible. We do also farm with my uncle and my grandpa. And my uncle has two boys and one girl, and they're significantly younger than me. My uncle's the youngest of four kids. So I think we have a pretty good future. The boys are super interested in the farm, and they're a lot more mechanically inclined than I am. So hopefully the future of Turek Farms, you know, if it does fall in our laps one day, I think we can handle it. I think we'll adapt to the position or the ownership changes, and we'll also adapt with the ever-changing technology that the ag industry um, is showing. You know, it's changing every single day. It's a lot to keep up with, but I think as long as you keep adapting and keep going to those meetings and conferences and stay with the technology, I think the future of Turek Farms has a very positive outlook.
That is a lot to keep up with, and you guys have adapted so well, but we've got to give Colton a little shout out too. I feel like your husband, Colton, anyone who follows you on social media knows that he's a big part of your story, but also your guys' success on the farm too. What's it like marrying a farm boy and letting him come into your family and help pick up the slack as well?
Yeah, I don't give Colton enough credit. I have a little bit different of a situation going on because a lot of women in ag, they work with their husbands, or you know, the husband at least works on the farm with them or owns it, whatever it may be. Colton is actually the reason I was able to come back to the farm because, as most of you know, financially, it's really hard to come back to your family farm, and there's not a ton of money, you know, to provide for, you know, a large salary like you would get in Wichita, Kansas. So Colton works off the farm. He works in Wichita, and he also farms with his dad part time. And whenever he's done with his first job and his part-time job, he comes back and helps us on our farm with my dad, helps run equipment, you know, what with the cattle, whatever it may be. And I think that's really awesome. He plays a lot of roles, and he helps me out a lot. And I will never be able to thank him enough for letting me come back to the farm. I say letting me, but allowing me the opportunity, I guess, is a better way of putting it. So yeah, he does play a large role, and I'm forever thankful for that.
Oh, without a doubt. It's so good to see your heart and to actually to see you guys on social media. I feel like you guys are up till wee hours of the night outside working still, and then same thing right back at it up in the morning again. So that's inspirational as well. But moving on to my next question, you mentioned earlier the drought, and I think we should go back and talk to you a little bit about this because it's so important for everyone to see the hardships that farmers face in any industry, in any, you know, era, any scope. Um, what is it like for you guys overcoming the hard times? And then how do you guys celebrate the high times as well?
I think my dad does a pretty good job at keeping, you know, an even outlook on everything, no matter what the year is. One of my favorite, you know, I'm a nervous Nelly. So anything, you know, if we don't get rain in a couple weeks when the wheat's, you know, at prime growth periods, I'm like, what are we doing? You know, what's going to happen? And my dad always comes back and say, oh, I've seen it worse than this. Oh, I've seen it worse than this. And so that always brings a little bit peace to my mind, except for this last summer. If you're in Kansas, you probably are aware or you are within the drought range that we're experiencing. Think we were in the exceptional drought um, region this past summer, and I think we still might be. We're not out of it. But my dad, for the first time this summer, he said, you know, I've never seen it this bad. And that freaked me out a lot because I was like, you know, what are we going to do? Whatever. But I think, you know, farmers are so resilient. They, you know, I kept seeing within this drought, I kept seeing, you know, there's not a more hopeful profession than farming because we were literally dusting the wheat in to the ground. There was no moisture in the ground. My dad kept saying, we're covering this wheat up so the birds don't eat it. And that's, as good as it gets. Thankfully, we have had a little bit of moisture since then, but I think it just comes back to you have to be resilient. You have to, keep in mind those good yields that you saw in the past. They're going to come back. They're going to come back. But, when you have the good yields, you have to, kind of keep things on reserve because hard times are coming too. Essentially, at the end of the day, Mother Nature is totally in control of our industry. And I think it's just good to always be prepared for that, but celebrate the wins, but also, you know, just be, I don't want to say keep in mind that bad things are coming, but you just have to be aware. You have to be smart and, play the system. So hard times are hard, but the good times are good. And it kind of all balances out in the end, really.
Oh yeah, and through 6 generations, you guys there's no doubt you guys have that under control. And I really love that you mentioned your dad's perspective on that. It's probably really easy for farmers to get in their heads about things. And so it's so important that you guys continue to go forward like you do. But one more thing before we go, we're almost out of time. I've got to talk to you a little bit about the common ag misconceptions that women can't farm, that cheeseburgers only come from the store. So let's talk about that. I want to hear your theory on the misconceptions and how you tell people about ag that maybe aren't as informed.
I think, we hear a lot about, misconceptions as far as, the beef industry, stop blaming cows, stuff like that. One of the things I wanted to talk about because I was not prepared. When I quit my office job, I had so many people come up and say, oh, you're just going to farm. What else are you going to do? Or you're just going to be a farmer. I don't think they were meaning it to be, any kind of malicious saying, but people just truly don't understand. Um, I don't know where along the lines that farmers got a bad rap. People just think we're uneducated, and I don't know where that came from. And it cannot be more far from the truth. But I think misconceptions like this, that's what I'm sharing on Instagram. I just want people to see the industry. We care about our animals. We care about the land more than, the people that live in the city who are attacking us day by day saying we don't care about the land. We take care of the soil nutrients and we take care of our cattle better than we take care of ourselves right now. So I think we just have to keep sharing and earning people's trust and showing them, why the misconceptions are wrong and doing it in a polite way instead of, attacking back. I feel like everywhere we turn, we're getting attacked as agriculturalists. And I think it's just going to take time and patience for us to show, people who didn't grow up in this industry, what's the truth and what's not the truth, or gain their trust and teach them over time if they're not ready to learn about it now. So.
Paige, you are such a classy woman. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us today. I wish you all the best, but I have enjoyed, most importantly, getting to follow along your journey, getting to see the day in and day out joys, discomforts. I cry with you, I laugh with you, and I want people to be able to do that too. So, is there a social media channel or a website that people can come find you at?
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram at Paige_Turek_Dvorak. Kind of a long name, but I'm there and I'll show you the day-to-day um, journey of Turek Farms.
Very good. Paige, it's been so good to reconnect. Thank you again for coming on inside, cleaning up a little bit, and taking the time to talk with us in the Kick Your Boots Up corner. It's been so fun. And again, I wish you the best of luck in everything.